Our next reading is from Mark chapter 15, verses 29 to 39. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, "Aha! You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days? Save yourself and come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests, along with the scribes, were also mocking him among themselves and saying, "He saved others. He cannot save himself? Let the Messiah, the King of Israel, come down now from the cross, so that we may see and believe." Those who were crucified with him also taunted him. When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. At 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "Listen, he is calling for Elijah." And someone ran and filled a sponge with sour wine and put it on a stick and gave it to him to drink, saying, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down." Then Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last. And the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. Now when the centurion who stood facing him saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, "Truly, this man was God's son." Scripture always speaks to us and is full of richness to be unearthed and applied to our lives. But rarely is a piece of Scripture so fit for the moment, so immediately and rawly reflective of the circumstances around us. Jesus' death on the cross always demands we pause. It demands our consideration, our respect, humility. But this week, this moment, we are surrounded by death. It is real, it is happening, it is terrifying. What is happening right now will change us forever. And so we sit with this text and we watch the news and we look in the mirror. We know that we are in this. Thousands have died this week. Thousands more will perish before this is over. Who can put meaning to this? How do we hold this? Where do we go from here? Aspects in this text are more challenging this year than in other years. Years we might focus more heavily on Jesus' individual story than on the deafening roar of the story that we're in. In other years, we would notice the emphasis in this passage on derision, on the number of agents who ridicule and mock Jesus as he prepares to die. Those who pass him, the chief priests and the scribes, even those being put to death, the text points out, take their precious time left and energy to insult the man who arrived in Jerusalem triumphantly not a week earlier. It's a false moment for us this year. Taking for granted the lives that are being lost is not what I see on the news when we hear stories of nurses and doctors who are the last people those suffering in critical care units will see, who make phone calls to loved ones as patients are dying, who transmit messages where family members cannot be present, who work tirelessly to attend the dying and hold them in their passing. This passage wants us to know how alone Jesus was on his way to his death. And we hear it, and we feel it, and we always respect it. There are those who will face their final moments alone, now and always. But the world today, with the greatest awe I have ever known in my life, the world is home and bearing witness to this struggle with the most awesome and astounding respect for life and loss that I have ever seen. We are not losing our humanity in this moment. We are finding it. We may just be finding it. What people see and what they say in this passage matters. Those at the open see Jesus and mock him. They have heard the stories and they see this poor soul marked for death now, brought so low, and all they can do is shake their heads. They seem to see the spectacle more than the man, and they call him a fool. Our Roman centurion, he sees more. At the moment of Jesus' passing, near 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Jesus breathes his last. The curtain of the temple is torn in two, and the passage specifically notes the centurion sees this. He sees how Jesus takes his last breath and what happens around him with the temple and the unnatural darkness. And he honors Jesus with these words to mark his passing. Truly, this man was the Son of God. Words matter. What we see matters. What we say matters. The vigils we hold matter. The lives that are lost matter. Those who survive matter. This is our Passion Week. It is not just about death. The Passion is not just about death, though we aren't preaching an Easter morning sermon just yet. Not just yet. We stand in the middle of this chaos and we hold it, particularly today, particularly on Good Friday, because that is where the apostles were left. They were left with this darkness for 3 days. But the centurion, he gives us our access into this story this year. We stand in this unnatural darkness as witnesses, and what we see matters, and what we say matters. In the darkness of this moment, this absolute moment of death and loss, we are all holding a sort of vigil in our own way. People will be lost. People will be saved. This story was never about escaping death, but overcoming its power over us. We can be brought to our knees, we can be humbled and reminded how fragile and vulnerable we are, but seeing each other, really seeing the sacrifice, the devotion, the loss, the suffering, seeing the hope, seeing the commitment to see this through. Seeing is knowing that we are blessed. We are blessed because the Word became flesh, because God lives in us and through us, and because the ways in which each and every one of you bears witness in your own way to this moment are the stories that hold up the mirror to our own blessed humanity in the days and years that follow. Surely this man was the Son of God. Surely these people are the children of God. The hour is dark. You are not alone.